Hi everyone, just doing a little video here on making some journal cards and small artist trading cards. If you watched my last video on my Techniques Tuesday, I was showing a shoebox and you would have watched me cut it up into pieces because I was going to use it to make journal cards. So I thought I'd show you, I've cut the box up into more pieces and I've kind of matched them up with what I want to use them for. So I'm going to put these two on here. And this bird is going to go on this one. And I have the violin here and another bird and another violin. And these images are all in my Ko-fi site. The link is below in the video. And they're in the free section. And then I cut another one to fit this smaller ATC mushroom. And you can see the condition of these cards. And here's another one here and another one here. And I'm going to save a few of these because I really do like these pieces. Excuse me. And I'm going to save them for future ones. I also cut a couple of button cards, and in the last video I explained that I was going to put the buttons on here first and then glue this down and further enhance and embellish it so that you don't see the stitching from the buttons. So I'm going to work on some of this off camera a little bit, but I thought I would do a little bit on camera just to show you. I know it looks like a pile of junk. I'm going to start with this one first, back here. I know it looks like a pile of junk, but it's not. And as soon as you start to wrap your head around this and realize that this is a shoebox. It's an old beat up shoebox. It's wrinkled and distressed. This is exactly the perfect stuff to use for making your journal cards. Now it's got a curl on here, but if I glue on this side, it will slowly start to flatten it out. And all I have to do is put it under a couple of weights overnight while it's drying, and it will flatten out very, very nicely. So this is a little, just a tiny, tiny bit bigger than the piece I'm working with. And I'm just going to trim this down a little bit. And I show you these videos because, one, not everybody has a supply of really good stuff that they can use, and not everybody can afford to use really good stuff. And sometimes the really good stuff is this. This is the really good stuff. And so I want you to see that just taking simple things in your household waste and working with what you have and not going out and buying additional products, you'll be amazed at some of the things that you can make and how nicely you can make them. So I'm just going to glue this down, and it may not stick perfectly. There's a bit of a gloss on here, so it may not stick perfectly, but I will stitch it down later to reinforce it. But I love the shabbiness of this cardboard, and I love that. I'm just going to slide this over just a little bit more. I hope I'm in camera, am I? Yeah. So I'm just sliding this over just a tiny little bit. I love the shabbiness of it. I love the aged look that comes automatically with this piece of cardboard. And I'm just catching it as best as I can here. So I'm going to now trim this down with my scissors. You can use your cutter if you want, but to me there's, this works just fine. And pushing it down a little bit more. And I love this roughness on this card. And yes, it's still got a bit of a curl to it. But if I put it on some weights and let it sit under the weights overnight, it will straighten itself out. But already it's looking pretty good. And I'm going to further embellish this and enhance it. And I'm just going to scratch this up a little bit more here by rubbing on the paper. And it's already getting flatter. And there is a perfect spot to do some journaling. Nothing else is required. Just keep working it, and like I said, putting a weight underneath it overnight, and you will see that it'll be a perfect journaling card. So I'm going to continue to play with these things, but let's just take some ink. Now this isn't a very juicy ink pad, so it doesn't take much to rub on here and enhance this card further. I don't want too much ink on the card, so it's kind of nice that it's not too juicy. And I'm going to do the same on the back side. Oop. And just like that, it's ready to go with a few little embellishments. I could put a label here. I like that this mushroom has these little dots, so I think I'm going to look for some fancy gems to put on here, but I'll do that later on. I'll probably stop the camera and do that a little bit later on. But I'm going to take another one. For example, this violin. I already pre-cut it out, and it's smaller than the cardboard itself. It's again got a nice back to write on. I don't even mind this little bit here, but I know it would make some people crazy, but I'm just gonna tear it down or cut it down. But I like the shabbiness. And I have an emery board back here because this is so perfect. It's almost too perfect. So I have an emery board, just one of your regular emery boards, and I'm just gonna scratch it up a little bit to further distress it. And you get to listen to me do this. And because this time this is going to be the front, I'm going to glue it down to here and ink it up again. This is for the next one. Clear off that dust off of there. Add my glue. Yeah, all these images are on my free coffee site, and they're just fun, whimsical pieces to work with. And just centering this as best as I can here. And I will embellish this even further. Now, just to give you an idea, first I'll ink it up. How's that? I'll ink it up a little bit. And if you like this distressed look, this is perfect for your journals. And this was an old shoebox. If ever you go to a yard sale, and sometimes people have these boxes, these cardboard boxes that look really cruddy, they're old shoe boxes, and they have piles of stuff in it, and they're selling the stuff, you know, $4 for $1, or you buy the whole box for $3 and stuff. Buy it for the box, or ask them for the box, because these are the best old shoe boxes to use for creating art. So I've roughed it up a little bit there. You can further ink stamp on the back here, or add some other collage, add a little bit of words, or some book page on there. Just rough it up a little bit more. I have this was an offcut from a piece of a drawer liner that I used to make some pages from. So on the back side of this, I'm just going to add a little piece of this, almost like a washi tape. In fact, you can just trim it down if it's too wide. It's just paper, and it's just a scrap bit of paper. And so I'm going to add this onto it. And I'm just doing this on the fly. No rules, no methods. I think I'm going to just kind of catch it right here and wrap it around the other side. So it looks like a piece of washi tape added on. I can still add a tab at the top. And then there's this piece. Now, a lot of you would say, oh, that's just a piece of garbage. Well, I started to tear it, and when I realized that it was going to split apart into 2 or possibly 3. Now, this is still pretty thick, so maybe I can get 4 out of here because it's old cardboard and it's peeling apart. There we go. Look at that. I got another piece. And you're looking at this like, oh my God, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen, right? But if I glue it up here, yeah, I like that one. I'm just going to take my glue stick and glue over top. And then I'm going to, do I want it there or want it there? I'm going to glue it up here. This becomes an instant place to put a label or a stamp or any kind of little doodad. Let's see what I've got here. I don't know whose labels these are, but I'm just going to assume that they're either, well, I don't even know whose they are, but let's just find one. Let's see. I think this is Artie Mae's labels. I'm just going to cut one of those out. Ink it up a little bit. And put a little bit of glue on it. Hopefully my glue works on the first try. Nope. Okay, got my hot glue gun here. And it's on. It's always on, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there. The hot glue will give it a little bit of a raised or a dimensional effect. And just putting that on top of the raggy paper, and I've changed the look on here even further. Now I can embellish this more with some trims, with some lace, but I'm just playing right now. It just came to mind that maybe you guys would want to see how I do some of this stuff. I could have put a little piece of lace underneath there as well. It's not to say I couldn't tuck a piece now underneath. I've got this pink lace. If you saw me on my other video, I was working with this under the or in my last video, so I can probably still peel this up a little bit and tuck it under there. You don't need very much, so I'll just trim it down, because I like to do everything backwards a little bit. So I've got my glue gun here. I'm just going to feed a little bit of glue underneath there and tuck this under the label, and it looks like it was meant to be there. So I can go ahead and further enhance this more you know, to create more dimension look to it, or add more collage on top, because there's a lot of empty space here that could be filled in. And I will play. I will just go ahead and play off camera with this one. But this was just to give you some ideas of how you can make things with garbage. Let's do a small ATC size one. I like this mushroom, so I'm going to just trim it down. And I use what's in front of me. I don't run around and look for things. I don't think about it, because the more you think about it, the longer it takes. And I use a lot of ephemera on a regular basis. I use a ton of stuff. Now I like this because I liked the sticker on here, and these numbers were already on there, and I don't want to cover that up. That's on the back side to me. So I'm just going to clean this a little bit so I don't have too much. But look at that. That's gorgeous stuff to use for another project or another label, because I don't think labels have to be perfectly square or round or perfectly shaped. And I've already cut this down to size, so I'm just going to put some glue on that one. There we go. A little bit quiet right now, but so you see how cool it looks just with these rough spots here. I lost my, here it is, my glue cap. It's sort of like it's a combination of both, like clean lines and a clean image, but very rough papers on it. So I have this little flappy bit, and the first thing that would come to mind would be to tear it off, right? Well, I'm not going to tear it off. I'm just going to tear some of it away, just so it looks a little bit more rough, not so structured, and so it doesn't cover the mushroom up completely. And I'm going to take my hot glue gun, because that's the only glue that's working right now, and just apply a little bit of glue on there, and I'm going to glue this flap down. And then that other label that was still on that same piece of paper, I think these are Artie Mae's. If they're yours, if they're not yours, I'm sorry, I'm saying it's you, but I think they're yours. You know, once it gets cut up and goes in the box, it's hard to remember whose or whose. And if it's somebody else's, please let me know and I will give you credit for it. I'm going to ink this up. And I did not plan any of this. You saw how it just came about. And I'm just going to put a little hot glue on the back here. And glue it down to that little flappy piece that I just cut off. Or tore down. And then taking my inker, I'm just going to ink around the edges here because I want it to look like even older and more distressed. Probably should have inked that before I glued it down, but that's working out not too bad. I'm going to flip it over and do the back side. And again, you can see I've created this little journaling card with a label on it. It's made with the mushroom. I will further enhance this, but I just don't have the stuff in front of me right now here on the table. And that's the back side. I love the numbers in this part sticker, and still plenty of room to journal on. And this is going into my Techniques journal that I have been working on with everyone on my Techniques Tuesday. So if you go back, you will see the original shoebox, and this is what I'm doing with the stuff that I've worked on. So I will stop the camera. I will continue to work on this pile until it's all gone. And this is how I work. This is how I make sure that everything gets used up and done with before I close everything down for the day. And so all of this like you saw, in just a few minutes, I just made these 3 journal cards. They need to be enhanced a little bit further, and I will do that. What I will probably do is finish these, come back, show you these finished, and then in another video I will do the embellishing where I can share with you and talk to you a little bit more about the embellishing that I do. But I hope this gives you some inspiration. Look at all this fun little piece of scrappy bits that I'm going to get to use on here. This piece of cardboard was off the edge after I cut things off. I can again take this and split it further by just pulling the cardboard and creating these fun vintage rustic looking bases to work with, to put labels underneath, or over top I mean, sorry. And I can just continue to pull this apart, and this becomes the basis for labels. So I hope you enjoy this. I will be back in a few seconds. To you, it'll just be one little pause, and I will show you all the finished cards. Okay, be right back. And I'm back. Although it might only be seconds for you, it's been a couple of days, but I am back. I had, a few other things to do, and then I put in another Techniques Tuesday video in between. So I did manage to get back. So I was showing you the cardboard shoebox and what I did with it. And this was from Techniques Tuesday 2 weeks ago. While you're watching this, we've already had another Techniques Tuesday. So this was the cardboard box. I showed you at the beginning of this video how I had already cut it up and what I was going to do with it. And so here come the results. And I put them upside down so you can't see everything at once. So let's start with the little cards. I made this one with the mushrooms, and these are all images in my free coffee site. So just click on the link below in this video to the coffee site, and you can download all you want there. So I added when I did this, I just distressed the edges and inked them, and then added these little embellishments in purple. I've got so much of this glittery, blingy stuff, and it's time to start using it. And I just found that the mushrooms were so whimsical that it just added to that. And you'll see there's some cute ones that turned out. And then a little number label. It could be Andrea's from Artie Mays, but I'm not sure because they were in the box and I'm just using up what's on my table. So yeah, you'll just have to check and see. On the back side, I just added a little bit of that strip of paper that I had left to make it look like a faux washi, and I left it all roughed up and distressed like this. But I love this kind of collage and journal cards in my journals because it just, again, it makes me happy to be reusing and repurposing and giving something one more life before it ends up in the landfill again. So then there's this mushroom. And here I used a little piece of that scrappy papers underneath the washi tape or the faux washi and the label, and then a few more little bling pieces. The back side again, there's the rest of that tape and roughness to make it look old. This one was one of my favorites because this had that little flappy bit that I just lifted over. You watched me do that. I've added a little bit of my tissue paper to collage, so it's just not so singled out as a mushroom. And then I had these blingy little red butterflies that I thought would look cute with that. So that's how that turned out. On the back, it had those numbers and a little bit of a price tag. I think it was a price tag on there, so I just left it on there. And I love these little rough bits. I hope you can see that. But I love that look, and it just looks like it came out of somebody's box of goodness from a long time ago, and so why not use it? And like I said, look for those old shoe boxes. Grandma's got one for sure. She probably got like 5 or 6 of them filled with stuff. So not only would it be fun to get the box, but to see what's inside those boxes, because you'd be surprised what Grandma holds on to. Again, I laugh because I'm grandma age. And no, I don't have shoe boxes like this filled with stuff because I use these shoe boxes. So this one here was my violin, or one of them, and all I did is I went back after I glued it down, added a little bit of piece of a tape underneath there, my own just scrap paper bits and stuff. I inked the edges with my word stamp. It's the same stamp I use almost all the time just to fill in some blank areas. Put another piece of that raggy looking paper and then added some lace underneath and then the label over top. And that just makes a really fun journal card that you can use in a boho journal or in a vintage journal, or even a music journal would be a fun piece to add in. The back side again, just the roughness. I love how this looks. You know, there's little bits of creases in the paper that make it look even older, and just something that you would think somebody's had for a very long time. So then this one was the violin. I think I showed you this one. The only thing I did on here was I inked the edges with the words a little bit and then did the distressing on it. Piece of that faux washi. There's the back side of it. Great journaling card to add in the books. They're a little bit heavier, but as long as you're not using, 10 of these in a journal, you should be fine for the weight and thickness. But it really just makes a really nice little piece, and not much work involved to do this. And again, these images are on my Ko-fi site and they're free to use. This is where it got fun because this little bird just screamed, "Bling me up." And so I did. I just, like I said, I have jars of this stuff and it never gets used. So I figured this was the perfect kind of stuff to work with it. And again, just this was the leftover strips that I cut off in order to make this image fit in the page. So I just used them as faux washi. So again, nothing gets wasted. I try to use it all. And then this one, okay, I haven't decorated the back yet because this was what was on the side of the shoebox. I figured I'll just leave it until I decide what it is I'm going to do with this. But it was one of my mushrooms with birds. Again, I blinged it up a little bit, so it's fun. I will still probably go back and add some lace or trim to it, but because I don't know where it's going at this point, I decided to just wait and see. And then these were part of the shoebox flap, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave them attached. I don't know, maybe I'll use it as a means to flip it into a book, or you know, maybe I could attach something else onto it. I'm not sure. So I just left them. I said, I'll just wait and see when the time comes that I'm going to use this. Then I will decide what to do with these flaps. And I may just cut them off. I'm not sure. And the back side, of course, if it is a journal card, then I will cover this with some coffee stained paper or something very simple so that you can write on it and you don't see this black. This next one was that green mushroom, and I had started to put this bling. This is what started all, was I started to put bling on all those little dots on the mushrooms, but then I didn't like it. And so I took them off and just decided to put flowers all over, choosing flower bling that was in the colors that sort of went with the card. I collaged a little bit of that tissue paper, just torn strips to, again, take away some of the blank space. I started to ink a little bit in the corners, but again, I really liked this one the way it was, so I didn't want to put too much more on it. But I love the gems. It just says Gypsy Boho to me, so I'm excited to use this in a journal coming up. A little bit of that tissue paper onto the, folded over onto the other side so it wasn't going to get wasted, and a blank space to write on. Again, I love the rough edges of this, and I love distressing them and making it look even older, so it's fun. This one still has a bit of a curl in it. I may just rest it on a damp cloth, like just a very slightly damp cloth, and put a weight on it, but it should be fine by the time I go to use it. I'll just keep working it. And the last one, again, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this one, but it just said bling me up, and so I just played with it and to see what would happen. And then I used some tissue paper, did a little bit of stamping. The back is very plain. I may make it as just as a journal card and just add a tab up here. So I figured this one again is going to sit and wait until I decide what to do with it when I'm actually going to use it in a journal. But this goes into my finished ephemera box, and then when I'm ready to use something, I may pull it and enhance it further to accommodate the journal that it's going into. But I just I love this whimsical look and the fun gems. So I think I'm going to be using these soon. And then the last two pieces that I used with the shoebox were the button cards. Now, the button cards are also on my free coffee site, so run with scissors and go grab yourself some and download them and print them out. I inked them up. These are a blank slate. All it says on there is buttons and 29 cents. So you can add all kinds of things to the background before you put the buttons on. And I think I was telling you that this time around I was going to sew the buttons onto the paper first and then glue the paper down. A little harder to do because you can't really press down in the center, but it was doable. And this way I don't have the threads showing on the other side, so this secures the buttons a little bit more. I mean, if somebody really wants to use them, they can get underneath it and snip it off and just leave the threads hanging, which again would be kind of cute in a journal. But I just thought it was a fun piece to add in. Great way to use up that shoebox, and nice and sturdy card to add in the journals. It's again thicker because of the buttons. These are pretty thick buttons, but just fun pieces. They look so nice, don't they? And I had some of those French labels. Those are also on my coffee site. I don't speak a lot of French, but they sort of look like they were words that were related to the buttons. Let's not look too closely for those of you that do speak French fluently. But this one had a nice lady's dress on it, so I just figured, well, that must say something that's similar to buttons. So those were my shoebox journal cards. And I still have a little bit left, and I want to show you this, and I put it in a little baggie because I will use it eventually. So it will just get tucked in one of my ephemera to-do boxes, and then I will come across them and play with it. So I still have 3 strips from the side of the shoebox, and this one has that little flap, and I just kind of made it look like a tag topper, and I thought it might fold over. If I'm putting something on here, it may fold over. Again, I love, now this is where the price came in, so these shoes were $24.99, so it's not that old of a shoebox, I don't imagine. But at least the box got reused, and it was grungy enough to use it. And here's this one with, you know, it's got some lifting bits. I will tear those off as I use it and see what happens when I go to play with them. Same with this one, has a little bit of stuff that can be torn off. And then I kept all these little bits because you saw how I use them under labels to just further enhance the label. You know, there will eventually come a point where this will be discarded, but I won't discard it until I've used at least these pieces. And it's not to say that I won't use it in other things that, you know, that I have to clear off my desk or something as I'm going along. No, I'm not going to keep that little piece. But yeah, I just kept them in this little baggie so it's contained. And then if I decide I don't want it, I can take it out of the baggie and put it in the recycling bin. But at least some of the shoebox got used and made some fun projects. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So that was that. And then because yesterday was my Techniques Tuesday and I showed everybody how to use a brown paper lunch bag and make some fun pull-out pockets, and then what to do with the leftover lunch bag papers, I decided to show you what I did because I did go back and finish it. And I was fun calling this the Diane Flip Out Baggie. I don't know where she got the idea from, but I do know, and I will tell you that Liz from the paper project had created one, and I haven't gone and looked at it. One of my subscribers had mentioned it on the channel or on the video. So it was Liz from the paper project that did one, whether it's the same style or something similar. I did a search yesterday and I only found one other person, and that was Scrapping with Me. Scrapping with Me. She did one where she had the bag folded over this way and then decorated on this side, and then you opened it up to create this, or have this pocket that was created. So hers is a little bit different, Scrapping with Me. And so that's the only one I could find. I really don't know what to call these. I'm just calling them paper bag flip outs, paper lunch bag flip outs. And I added Diane in there for fun, only because Diane was the one who gave me this one. So here's one of the finished ones that I did. If you watched the video, you saw that I had started to work on it. I still want to add something up at the top here. I haven't done it yet, but all of this was glued down to the bag. And, you know, I've played with this one so much. It does open up pretty good, except I realized that the butterfly catches a little bit. So you just have to be careful how you close it to not have the butterfly in the way. But all of this ends up on the inside of the bag when you open it. But it sure gives a lot of space to add to tuck in some fun ephemera or a little note card or something inside. And it's just a matter of playing with it to get it to lay flat again. And then I'd done 2 of those. So here's the second one. This time I put the butterfly a little further down on the triangle so it doesn't interfere. And you can see that that opens up quite nicely and quite easily. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're making these, is to where your butterfly or your collage bits sit. So I would sit them below the triangle or above the triangle up here in order for them to not catch on things. But you know, if you know what what it's supposed to do, you just have to maneuver it a little bit. But this one certainly was much easier once I had put the butterfly in the right spot there. And again, I'm going to go back and do some more embellishing on this. But this was just stuff on my desk. And I have so many of these butterflies that you're going to see a lot of these butterflies. And I'm trying to use them up. So wherever I can in my tutorials, I do use them. Only because they're going in my Back to Basics techniques book, so it's not like I'm doing everything with butterflies. It's just using them to clear them off my desk. Same with these other images, not something I use anymore. This one, I had shown you that I was going to use a couple of playing cards, which is what these are. And I had originally put the blue birds on here, but it was just so stark white against the brown that I didn't like it. So I went back through my card collection and found these floral ones, which are more complementary. Again, I used a little butterfly and a label just to show you how it would look. I glued them down, these cards down, but I also stapled them for extra stability. And this again opens up quite nicely. It's still relatively new. I didn't do a lot to it, so I wasn't handling it a lot. So it still needs a little bit of maneuvering in order to open it. But it's working, and it just, like I said, you just have to keep playing with them, and you will find that they will open nicely. And I just love these. I think they are so cute. I look forward to making more of these for sure. This is going in my finished, this one is going in my finished ephemera pile, and now my plan is to make at least a half dozen of these. The only problem with making a half dozen of these is that you're left with all the scrappy bits of envelopes. And or not envelopes, of the paper bag, and I made miniature paper bags out of them, which I'm going to show you, but you get a lot out of one leftover bag. So if I want to make a half dozen of these, I got to be prepared that I'm going to be making a lot of little paper bags, although I will use them, but it's one of those things I have to sit down and say that's what I'm going to do. So here's where you're going to see the butterflies, but these are all the little bags that I made, and they can be glued in or left as floating items. So I just used scrappy bits out of my scraps box with a little bit of that tissue paper, some labels, and of course the butterfly, and I made them in different sizes, different colors. And whatever was handy. I didn't leave my desk. And I love this one. This was a larger butterfly, so it's a pocket, but I left the little flip on there. I think there was one other one down here that was a flip. I'm not sure. So I left that little flip on there so this can sit in a journal, on a journal page, and you can still put something in it, but use it as a little hiding spot to hide whatever's underneath it. I may add a little tab to here so that people know that you lift it away, although I'm pretty sure it would just lift away quite easily. And then I made some long, thin ones, and this was the top of one of the paper bags, and so I got 3 long ones out of the same piece of paper bag. It's amazing how much you can get. You still see the crease lines. You could iron them if you wanted to, but I know that they're going to be fine as they are, and you know, the creases don't really matter much. So now it's a matter of coming up with what's going to go in these long slim bags, but these are all about 7 inches tall. Yeah, they are all 7 inches tall. And like I said, all I did was I opened the side of the bag, folded the paper into 3, and then tore it into 3 pieces, and then made my bags like that. If you watched the video, you saw how to make the bags. And they're just so cute and easy. So I will definitely stick those in my finished ephemera box, and they'll be good to go. And then this was the 2 bags. I did that on that video, and I just decorated them very plain. I used a little cluster and a couple of images just to finish off the bag. This one has the little hinge flip out so that I can attach it to a page and have it flip. And this one does not. This one's just a regular bag. This one I was able to use the top of the bag the way I planned it. It worked out really nicely. And this serrated edge is the original bag edge. So sometimes, you know, if you can play around, you can make it work. So not bad for a collection of ephemera. All of this I finished while I was waiting for the videos to upload, because, you know, sometimes it takes at least an hour for a video to upload onto my channel. So this was great. While the video was uploading, I finished this off, cleared off my desk. Look at, I have about, let's see, I have about 15 inches by about 11 inches, 12 inches that I can play in now. So I'm pretty happy about that. So that's it for my little sort of show and tell and little extra video for today. So this will air Wednesday, and stay tuned for Thursday's Thrifty Canucks, which will be coming up tomorrow. And I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week, as I always do. And if you have a chance, take apart a couple of brown paper bags and go watch my video and have a play. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.